All right, y'all, good morning. We're back live in the morning doing this thing in a masterful way that I think we can get something done in the name of Jesus. Oddly enough, in the name of Jesus. Not for the sake of evil, in the name of Jesus, not for the sake of bad business, in the name of Jesus, not to misuse it, not to abuse it, but to lift it up. Lift it up, that name above every name in this time. I mean, God help us. If in getting through the day, we're gonna get some stuff done. We're gonna get some stuff done that really will help us understand some things. I hope in the future, and so I hope that we can understand the issue of slavery, invasion, conquest, exploration, and all those that involved utilizing Christianity as a means, as a methodology for quote unquote reaching people. And in the midst of that, utilizing it to reach people and teach people numerous things. But one of the things we learn from that is people were taught they just weren't good enough. Right? When it boiled down to it, they beat people down, they taught them, they hammered into their psyches, not insecurity, not that, inferiority. And so the issue that is truly at hand is the utilization of the name of Jesus to present men and women in this position to be sold as property. Sold as black property. Are we still there? Here we go. Let's talk about this. This is looking at controversial uses of the name of Jesus to conquer, to win over, to be in charge. And this is strange because here's something. Leviticus 25, 46, 44 through 46 gives us a little example of part of what was used in order to maintain enslavement of Africans and those from parts of Africa. In order to do this, it's Leviticus 25, 44 through 46. And it talks about, the ability of the former slaves to buy slaves. Look at verse 44. If I could just drop that on you right here. Verse 44 from Leviticus. This is Leviticus 25, 44. Ooh, come on. Oh, man. Can you believe this? This is how we doing. As for your male and female slaves whom you may have, you may buy male and female slaves from among the nations that are around you. Keep what you got, is what God is telling them. And then by law, you can buy more from other nations around you. Oh man, talk about out of context. Leviticus is the law given by God about transferring from enslavement to this exodus to the promised land. And boom, the issue of slavery and slaves as property comes up, and God ensures them, yeah, you can do that. But remember, this isn't a slave system like our system. If you have slaves who are born in your land, they may be your property. There you go. You own the mama, you own the daddy, they're your property. You may bequeath them to your sons after you inherit after you to inherit as a possession forever. You may make slaves of them, but over your brothers, the people of Israel, you shall not rule one over another ruthlessly. Keep in mind this, and keep in mind English is a horrible translation for whatever they were trying to say in Arabic. And so you can own them, you can pass them on to your kids, their property. And that was used as an excuse for enslavement. I remember, oh man, my first year at Morehouse, I had to do this article, a debate, an essay on justifying the economic justification for slavery as a sound structural business system for the South. And I did like genuine research from articles printed from the early 1800s to Jim Crow. And the way the data was spun was amazing. Literally cotton and indigo and things of that nature were king during that period of time. So keep that in mind. Even in Joshua 9:23, the text says, some of you will always be slaves. Some of you will always be slaves. Boom. Joshua 9:23. Some of you will always be slaves. And that's not even in context properly, if I can say that, right? So sad that this thing isn't properly working. You know, we want to make sure people understand what it means, but when we say that even some of you will always be slaves, who's talking? Who's talking to whom? And so it even confirms my own irritation with some half-hearted Bible study information and presentation when people do not speak about who's speaking to whom, or who the audience for the letter was, or whatever. And then you get in, somebody picks it up and then says something ignorant. Well, yeah, it looks like it says they can. Come on, man. Come on. This is, and so leveraging the Bible as an excuse for enslavement didn't end with the Old Testament. Come on. We've heard it before. I'm just going to give you two examples. Two verses, and then we're moving on to something else about this in the name. Right? Look at this. Look at it. Slaves obey your masters. Right? In fact, we hear this read sometimes in a context that's supposed to be the inclusive of everybody in the church who has a position in the church, the young women, the older women, the older men, the younger men, the pastor, the people, and slaves obey your masters. We've covered everybody except for the church mouse. Come on. No, it's out of context because the slavery systems that were in existence during Paul's time were nothing compared to what was happening with chattel slavery in the U.S. The slavery systems that were in existence in Egypt and other parts of Africa were nothing compared to what um, cruelty people experienced in Haiti and other places and beyond. The islands are um, where they got the system of the most cruel slavery from, right? We talk about triangular slavery in the system of the U.S., England, and Africa, or the U.S., Africa, and Europe. That hit when they got into the islands, when they did that little drop off over there. They were subjecting people to the pain of sugarcane, right? And so here's another part that is biblical, but still troubling. So utilizing the letter Philemon in the New Testament, I still don't see there's. This is why literacy is important. This is why literacy is important. This is why literacy is important. This is why literacy is connected to liberation for people. Yes, I would agree with the master who complained of them teaching Frederick Douglass how to read, because if you teach them how to read, if they can read for themselves, it's dangerous. If church people read the Bible for themselves, they'd be powerful, right? The essence of it is when you can read, comprehend, dissect, break down, and even investigate, research what words mean and how words combine to create other meanings, then you can come in and say, wait a minute, that sounds kind of right there. Yeah, suspect. Philemon. It's um, it's a New Testament letter written by Paul to a slave owner on behalf of a converted slave. And it does contain elements that speak of honoring the slave owner's position as owner of this man's property. But it does speak of an appeal to the slave owner as, hey, this is now your brother beloved, since you both are now converted Christians. I can't tell you what to do, but I can hope that you would decide to do these certain things as a master, right? Oh man, it's a very compelling letter, right? Almost like an attorney wrote it, but it has this spiritual appeal because of this new enlightenment that both men have had, and Paul's hope that they would have a shared experience as brothers and not slave and master. But what was used out of Philemon was, hey, as an owner, yeah, I know you have rights. As an owner, I know this is your property. As an owner, I know he's yours. And so the recognition of that was there. But what we're missing is context. Out of all this, it's connected to slavery as a topic, as a theme, but it's not connected to slavery in context when you talk about slavery in other situations beyond the Judeo-Christian system at that time. And we're talking about two different periods of time. We're talking, crazy. So then look at this. There are those who were enslavers who used Christ's name as an excuse for enslaving people, but then evangelical abolitionists use Christ's name as a means for breaking people free, right? Anybody ever heard of David Walker? And David Walker wrote a amazingly written pamphlet called The Appeal. David Walker's appeal gave us ideas of liberty versus captivity, right? Freedom versus enslavement, right? The truth, having to deal with the truth and standing before God based upon how we lived it out here. And so David Walker's appeal stirred up enough to where they put a bounty on his head. Yeah. When I say they, I'm talking about a group of slave-holding Southerners with an interest of stop this thing from circulating and let's not let this thing be published anymore. They're trying to ban it. It was banned in certain areas. Couldn't have it. Prior to that, wasn't it Denmark Vesey? Right? Denmark Vesey, who was involved in the slave revolution, right? South Carolina. Come on, y'all. Somebody talk to me in South Carolina. You know, had the brother also involved in it. And we had multiple people because he wasn't enslaved anymore. He was free, but his family was enslaved, and that's why he was still around. And he was trying to get people involved in freeing others. He was a carpenter. He was a community leader, Bible study group, right? And it's, we call them small groups now, cell groups. He's the leader of a group. They're talking about what? The glory of the Lord, freedom, and liberty. And some of the folks that he's talking to are enslaved. And they say, well, man, how is this for us or not? Is God speaking for us or not? And so Denmark Vesey represents an element of faith-based freedom fighting that occur. In fact, where my AME people at? In fact, where my people from Morris Brown at. In fact, Morris Brown, the pastor, was said to be somehow involved but not indicated. Involved but not indicted, I should say. So, hey, there you go. Legendary AME, Morris Brown, was still in the history books. God bless. So you got David Vesey, you got David Walker, and then you got Nat Turner, who was an enslaved preacher, right? Had the ability to preach, but I believe Jesus said it best. Physician, heal thyself. If you can't, if you're preaching this thing and you can't apply any of the remedy, right? You can't apply any of the fixes to your own life. What you talking about? What are you doing? And so what we see with Nat Turner is the okay, it's come to this now. Boom, and the explosion into what we call this rebellion that sparked much of what we know as the Black Codes of more than Black people couldn't gather together. They couldn't be together with and mix with free people. They couldn't be together in a large assembly that appeared to be threatening to the public. Come on. These Black Codes changed how people operated and moved. And many people were just many people were just executed on the mark that, hey, I think they might have been associated with them, or rather, let's cut this off before it goes any further. Let me say it like that. Let's cut this thing short. Let's end it here. And so that's how you ended up with, quote unquote, Nat Turner's rebellion dissolving after after they had gone through, killed slave owners, and had also burnt some land and property. You know, they were on a spree, and until they faced other authorities, that's where they're headed. And so we've looked at this from the excuse of enslavement to the evangelical abolitionists, finally coming back full circle to Christ-centered hate. The original KKK, Ku Klux Klan, was set up as something else, but the new KKK was primarily set up with large protests involved and prominent positioning of themselves as a Protestant Christian fraternal order. Come on, y'all. Let's be real. That's what they were doing. That's what they were doing. That's how they got organized. And so they leaned in on being white, American born, and of the Protestant faith. The burning of the cross was symbolic of the light of Christ. But the natural order of the racist framework that they had in this brand dealt with white supremacy, particularly dealing with Black Americans, Jews, and Catholics. Catholics, right? Black Americans, Jews, and Catholics. Come on. Now here's the part that people don't get. This was based upon white supremacy, right? Christian morality and values. So when we talk about what was happening with Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood, we don't look at it the same way as we look at the methods of the KKK. Eugenics, with this belief that blacks were unfit to continue breeding, eugenics and its belief that blacks were unfit to continue procreating, got into this whole thing about abortion clinics. And I tell you, man, listen, why are there only certain things in certain communities that go beyond zoning? Excuse me, that go beyond zoning and go beyond whether or not we allow such businesses and establishments in a place like this. Look at your community next and tell me if you have liquor stores beside the WIC office, if you have gun shops along the same way, pawn shops along the same pathways to your schools, methadone clinics, Planned Parenthood, all that is systematically planted in your area, not your coworkers' area. So they don't know what you're dealing with. They don't know what you're talking about. They don't understand the issue of it. Or even, can you just be disgusted about it? Like sick of it? Come on. Anyway, within their history, as well as, come on, Girl Scouts, come on, Girl Scouts who felt like they were building up the values of young women to uphold their duty to God, as well as building their character in association with Christian morality. Girl Scouts were segregated. And not only were they segregated, but then they limited the number of black troops. Even though they don't, the organization has disavowed this history and committed to being a anti-racist institution. Well, Southern Baptists did too. Southern Baptists did too. Southern Baptists who were associated with the Klan. Southern Methodists who were associated with the Klan. And so I take you back to it's was set up as a Christian organization. Well, primarily in the South, the approved Christian organizations in the South were Baptists and, here we go, Methodists. So there we are. Just so you know, from the excuses of enslavement to Christ-centered hatred, it's all been utilized in his name. All been utilized in his name, and it's been utilized for freedom, it's been utilized for hate, it's been utilized for enslavement, it's been utilized for good, it's been utilized for bad. Question every way in which someone approaches you with the name of Jesus. Question every way and in every manner how someone approaches you using the name of Christ. The issue is not whether or not the name is worthy of its value. The issue is whether or not what this person is bringing to you is even truly associated with the identity of Christ. I'm going to get into that next week, but I wanted to finish this off with these controversial conquests in the name of Christ, this whole thing about using the name of Christ and what was bad, quote unquote, biblically has turned into something else in our lifetime. God be with us. God bless us. Let's get this together. Next week, we'll see some more. But until then, trust me and believe me. I wish you peace. I wish you love. I wish you all the things that God offers us. God be with you.